gates of the unknown, where the logic breathes and the data flows. We question what the code has shown, and spark the light when no one goes. Clearly learned voices collide.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we sift through the noise, unpack complex topics, and bring you the most compelling insights from a stack of sources. A little while back, we journeyed into the intriguing world of the 2007 film The Man from Earth, a real thought experiment about an immortal living among us. And since that deep dive, your feedback has been absolutely incredible. Seriously, we received such a thoughtful outpouring of responses, and they really gravitated around two fascinating themes. First, this concept of biological immortality that the film surprisingly didn't really acknowledge. And second, well, a lot of you were curious about our thoughts on the sequel. We listened closely. So today we are dedicating this entire deep dive to that first utterly captivating category, the truly complex, often misunderstood, and rapidly evolving world of biological immortality. What exactly is it? How are scientists actively working to understand and perhaps even replicate it at a fundamental level? And most importantly, for us, for humanity, is it truly a possibility? Can we transcend our current biological limits?
That's exactly it. That's our bold mission today. We're going to peel back the layers on this topic, starting with the purely scientific definitions. Then we'll venture into the groundbreaking research that's happening in labs across the globe right now, literally right now, and then broaden our lens to the profound societal and ethical questions that, inevitably arise if we ever do crack the code on indefinite human life. It's a journey that challenges our very understanding of what it means to live, to age, and ultimately to die. And what's truly fascinating, I think, is how natural selection has already given us some, astonishing clues about biological immortality long before any human even began to dream of such a possibility. So let's begin with the foundational question. What exactly is biological immortality? At its core, it's a state where an organism does not die of intrinsic aging. So none of that natural, inevitable breakdown of cells and tissues over time. This means their mortality rate doesn't increase with chronological age. Think about that for a moment. It's quite radical. It's not about being invulnerable to all forms of death. I mean, an immortal jellyfish can still be eaten by a predator, right?
Right, or a lobster can get caught.
Exactly. But it is about escaping the internal programmed decline of the body itself. That decline we typically associate with just getting old. And this brings us to a really crucial distinction, one that's central to basically all longevity research, the difference between chronological age and biological age. Chronological age is simple, right? It's just the number of years, months, days since you were born, fixed. Linear.
Yeah, straightforward.
But biological age, that's far more dynamic. It's nuanced. It's this broad spectrum reflecting your true functional state. Your physical vigor, your physiological health, cognitive sharpness, all influenced by these intricate molecular and cellular processes happening inside your body. So while your chronological age ticks steadily forward, your biological age, well, theoretically, it can be slowed, maybe paused, or even, as we'll get into, potentially reversed. It's the metric that truly matters in this whole quest for extended health span.
And that, for me, is the real heart of this deep dive. Because for us humans, our current biological reality is, undeniable. Our mortality rate does increase with age. It's been this fundamental, inescapable part of the human experience since forever, really. But what's so revolutionary about the science we're discussing today is that scientists are now vigorously challenging that very trajectory. The entire quest is to understand the precise mechanisms of biological aging, to distinguish it from just chronological time, and then, perhaps, to fundamentally alter that trajectory for ourselves. Can we actually rewrite our own biological clock? That's the massive challenge. Okay, so if humans aren't biologically immortal, that immediately sparks a truly intriguing question for me. Are there other creatures on Earth that do achieve this state? And if so, what amazing blueprints has nature already provided? Things that could, guide our own pursuit.
Oh, absolutely. Nature is, it's a master innovator. It's just full of incredible examples that demonstrate true biological immortality, or at least extraordinary longevity. And they accomplish this through a fascinating array of unique mechanisms. Take the Hydra flatworm, for instance. It's truly observed to be biologically immortal, meaning it shows no signs of aging. Its mortality rate doesn't increase with age, at all. Its secret lies largely in its remarkable ability to control the expression of a specific gene family called FOXO. These genes play a critical role in regulating stem cell maintenance, self-renewal, basically keeping things young. Essentially, Hydra has found a way to keep its cellular repair and regeneration mechanisms perpetually active, constantly refreshing its tissues. And interestingly, while Hydra masters this, we'll actually see later that activating similar pathways like the FXO family is also a key target in human longevity research.
Huh, really? So it connects.
Yeah, particularly with certain dietary strategies we'll touch on. It seems to be a fundamental pathway across many species. Then there's the poster child of biological immortality, the Turritopsis dohrnii jellyfish. You might know it as the immortal jellyfish.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that one. It goes backwards, right?
Exactly. Its mechanism is just astonishing, unique in the animal kingdom. When faced with environmental stress or injury, instead of dying, it can actually revert its life cycle. It essentially regresses from its adult medusa stage back to an immature polyp stage. And then from that polyp, it can regrow into an adult form again. And it can do this not just once, but multiple times over. It's like hitting a biological reset button, literally reversing its cellular differentiation and becoming young again. It just completely defies our linear understanding of a life cycle. And let's not forget lobsters. Now, they aren't truly immortal like the jellyfish, but they exhibit astonishing longevity. They show very few signs of aging as they get older, essentially growing indefinitely. They are presumed to live well over 100 years, with some estimates suggesting much longer in ideal conditions.
How do they do that?
Well, their remarkable longevity is linked to the ubiquitous expression of telomerase. That's an enzyme that helps maintain the length of telomeres.
The shoelace tips we hear about.
Exactly, the protective caps on the ends of chromosomes. Unlike most animals, including us humans, where telomerase expression is pretty limited mostly to germline and some stem cells, lobsters keep this enzyme active in most of their somatic cells. This allows them to continuously repair and maintain their genetic material. We'll dive deeper into telomeres later, but for now, just know this enzyme helps them avoid one of the primary mechanisms of aging that affects most other creatures. And for a creature that seems straight out of science fiction, we have the tardigrades, affectionately known as water bears.
Tough little guys.
The toughest. These microscopic animals are usually short-lived, but they possess this incredible ability to enter a suspended animation-like state called cryptobiosis. In this state, they can reversibly suspend nearly all of their metabolic activity. It allows them to survive extreme conditions like dehydration, freezing, radiation, even the vacuum of space.
That's incredible.
The truly mind-bending part is that they can remain in the state for decades, potentially even thousands of years, and then reanimate when conditions become favorable again, just picking up where they left off.
Like putting life on pause indefinitely.
Exactly, an indefinite pause button.
That's just wild to consider. It completely shatters our preconceived notions of lifespan. And what I found truly fascinating in the sources is that it's not just those dramatic, unique examples. The data points to a surprising diversity of extreme longevity across the animal kingdom. We're talking about creatures like the rough-eye rockfish, living up to 205 years. The majestic Aldabra giant tortoises, reaching an incredible 250 years.
Incredible.
Freshwater pearl mussels clocking in at 210 to 250 years. And the ocean quahog clam with an astounding, verified 507-year lifespan.
507 years. Amazing.
And let's not forget the Greenland shark, a true deep-sea marvel, which can live for up to 400 years, making it the longest-living vertebrate known. It really makes you rethink what's truly possible within biological systems when the right conditions or, the right genetic adaptations are in place.
Indeed. And it's not just the animal kingdom that holds these secrets. The plant kingdom offers its own staggering examples of defying time. Aspen trees, for instance, are fascinating. While individual trunks might live a relatively short, say, 40 to 150 years, their root systems form these vast clonal colonies that can persist for thousands of years, continuously sending up new trunks as old ones die.
Like one giant organism underground.
Precisely. The famous Pando colony in Utah, which is genetically a single organism, is estimated to be a staggering 80,000 years old.
80,000.
80,000. Then we have the ancient bristlecone pine, with the oldest known non-clonal individual, Methuselah, reaching over 5,062 years. And ginkgo trees in China have been observed to resist aging for centuries. Evidence shows they maintain remarkable vitality through extensive gene expression linked to adaptable defense mechanisms, robust vascular systems, all contributing to their extraordinary longevity. They don't just survive, they actively resist the processes we associate with aging.
And it stretches down even to the most fundamental forms of life, right? Like bacteria.
That's right. If we look at the colony level, bacteria can also be considered biologically immortal. When a parent bacterium divides into two daughter cells, those daughter cells are essentially rejuvenated copies. Any accumulated damaged stuff, macromolecules within the parent cell, are effectively split between the daughter cells and diluted. It prevents a buildup of cellular waste.
So they sort of reset the clock with each division.
Exactly. They perpetually reset their age's clock, maintaining a youthful state across generations of cells. So to kind of synthesize this section, what these diverse natural examples truly provide is a profound framework for our understanding. They show us unequivocally that escaping intrinsic aging isn't merely a theoretical concept or some distant dream of science fiction. It's a proven biological reality that has manifested in many varied and ingenious forms across the tree of life. This makes the human pursuit of biological immortality not just compelling, but perhaps even plausible. If we can unlock and harness the fundamental secrets held within these long-lived organisms and, translate them to our own biology.
It shifts the question from, is it possible? To, okay, how do we actually do it?
Precisely. All right, so now we're armed with this understanding that nature provides these blueprints for immortality. Let's shift our focus back to the human scale. Let's dive into the cutting-edge science aimed at extending our lives. Specifically, our health span, the years we live in good health. The scientific community has made huge strides in understanding aging at its most fundamental level, the cellular and molecular processes that drive it. Back in 2013, a landmark paper by Lopez-Otin and colleagues defined what they called the 9 cellular and molecular hallmarks of aging. These are considered the fundamental processes believed to drive aging.
The 9 hallmarks. Okay, what are they?
They represent the core vulnerabilities of our cells as they age. So number 1, genomic instability, basically accumulating damage to our DNA. 2, telomere attrition, the shortening of those protective chromosome caps we just talked about.
Wow.
3, epigenetic alterations, changes in how our genes are expressed without changing the DNA sequence itself. Think of it like software glitches. 4, loss of proteostasis, a breakdown in how cells maintain and clean up their proteins. Things get messy inside. 5, deregulated nutrient sensing, meaning cells lose the ability to properly respond to nutrients. 6, mitochondrial dysfunction, problems with the mitochondria, the cell's powerhouses.
Right, the energy factories.
Exactly. 7, cellular senescence, where cells stop dividing and become harmful, promoting inflammation, the zombie cells. 8, stem cell exhaustion, a decline in our body's capacity for self-repair, the repair crew gets tired. And 9, altered intercellular communication, meaning cells stop talking to each other effectively, disrupting tissue function, like bad cell service.
Wow, that's quite a list. It really paints a picture of systemic breakdown. And as our understanding continues to deepen, that list is actually expanding, right? I saw in the sources, a 2022 symposium identified even more potential new hallmarks.
That's right. Things that compromise autophagy, which is the cell's vital internal recycling program. Also, dysregulation of RNA processing, imbalances in our microbiome, the gut bacteria, and so on. Even altered mechanical properties of our tissues, like stiffness, and of course, systemic inflammation, which seems to be a common thread, maybe even a root cause in so many age-related diseases.
So for me, the central kind of daunting question for scientists today is, how exactly are we trying to tackle these incredibly complex and interconnected processes? How do we enhance human health span, extend that period of life spent in good health?
Well, a really critical piece of that immensely complex puzzle lies in the telomere story. To grasp their importance, just imagine telomeres as those protective plastic caps on the ends of your shoelaces, the aglets.
Yeah, the things that stop them fraying.
Exactly. Just as those aglets prevent your shoelaces from fraying and unraveling, telomeres are these repetitive DNA sequences. Specifically, TTG repeats over and over at the ends of our chromosomes. They keep our DNA intact and prevent it from degrading, or worse, fusing with other chromosomes. They act as essential guardians of our genetic material. And this telomere length acts as a kind of intrinsic biological clock for most of our cells. With each round of cell division, our telomeres naturally shorten. This is because the enzymes responsible for replicating DNA, they just can't fully copy the very ends of the chromosomes. It's a technical limitation of the process.
So they get shorter every time a cell divides.
In most of our normal somatic cells, yes. This is due to the limited expression of that enzyme we mentioned earlier, telomerase. When these telomeres become critically short, the cell gets a signal. It stops dividing and enters that state called senescence, effectively ending its proliferative life. To give you some context, embryonic telomeres are quite long, maybe around 15,000 base pairs. But by the time a cell reaches senescence in an adult, they can be down to 5,000 base pairs.
That's a big drop.
It is, and each single cell division can lead to a loss of maybe 200 to 300 base pairs of telomere length. This cumulative shortening is considered a primary driver of cellular aging.
So if shortening telomeres are acting as this biological clock ticking down to senescence, then the scientific quest becomes, how do we reset that clock, or at least significantly slow it down? Our sources really dive into two main, incredibly promising scientific approaches being explored to lengthen telomeres. First, there's the exciting, although maybe a bit carefully managed, world of induced pluripotent stem cells, or iPSCs.
Yes, iPSCs. The underlying idea is quite ingenious, though it might sound a bit counterintuitive at first. The concept involves taking a normal, specialized adult cell, let's say a skin cell, and rewiring it, pushing it back into an embryonic-like pluripotent state. You achieve this by introducing a specific cocktail of transforming factors, usually OCTAR4, SOX2, c-MYC, and KLF4. These are master regulatory genes highly active in embryonic stem cells.
The OSK factors we'll hear more about.
Exactly. What happens then is these factors reactivate the telomerase enzyme within the cell, and that leads to a significant increase in telomere length. The goal isn't actually to create a cancerous cell, but to hit this kind of sweet spot, a state between normal aging cells and uncontrolled tumor cells. It allows for controlled proliferation and robust telomere maintenance. It's really about rejuvenating the cell, giving it back its youthful characteristics. And the potential here is quite significant. Research has shown that converting a normal somatic cell into an iPSC can increase telomere length by up to 500 base pairs.
500 base pairs. How much difference does that make?
Well, if you consider that a single cell division can lose 200, 300 base pairs, and over a typical 80-year human lifespan, our cells might lose around 10,000 base pairs per chromosome before hitting senescence. Then an increase of 500 base pairs could hypothetically translate to an extension of healthy lifespan by several years. It's not a complete reversal to embryonic length, but it's a significant lengthening of our biological clock, potentially adding meaningful time to our health span.
That's a huge potential. But I can't help but think it sounds a bit like playing with fire, doesn't it? The risk of uncontrollable cell proliferation, like tumor growth, seems like a serious concern.
Oh, absolutely. That's the major hurdle.
That's why, as the research highlights, there's this critical emphasis on using SOP genes, or genes that can actively repress non-NOG, which is a key regulator of OCT4 activity, to keep that proliferation in check. It's a delicate dance, a real balancing act between rejuvenation and uncontrolled growth.
Precisely. And from a practical standpoint, this iPSC method is currently quite tedious, very labor-intensive, and incredibly costly. Some sources even give approximate figures, citing a total cost of around $134,675 for the entire process. That includes the necessary adenovirus packaging for delivery, the gene therapies, based on pricing examples from specific research centers, I think in India.
Wow. So definitely not something you can just walk into a clinic and get done today.
Not yet, no. The challenge isn't just the science, but the scalability and affordability.
Our sources even included these fascinating visual data points like genealist graphs. They show how these critical genes, like NOG and OCT4, are naturally expressed across various human tissues. It really underscores the complexity of these factors and how intricately they're woven into our natural biology. Makes their targeted manipulation seem like a huge challenge.
It is. Now, moving to the second, perhaps even more advanced approach, we have CRISPR-Cas9 technology. This is a far more precise and sophisticated genome editing tool compared to the induced state of iPSCs. Instead of inducing a general pluripotent state, CRISPR-Cas9 can be programmed to detect the specific TTAD-G repetitive sequence of telomeres. It knows exactly what to look for.
Okay.
Once identified, it can then precisely insert extra telomere strands, typically between 2 to 10 kilobases in length, effectively and directly lengthening them right at the chromosome ends.
And that precision is its major advantage, right? It's considered more accurate and significantly more efficient than the iPSC approach because it's directly editing the genome in this targeted, almost surgical way. This level of precision opens doors for truly revolutionary applications, stuff that was once just science fiction.
Indeed. One of its most promising immediate applications is in treating severe progeroid syndromes like Hutchinson-Gilford progeria. This condition causes instantaneous, rapid aging in individuals, leading to decline and premature death. By being able to precisely edit and extend telomere length, CRISPR-Cas9 could theoretically reverse or at least significantly slow down this rapid aging process in patients who literally age before our eyes. It would be monumental.
However, like all cutting-edge tech, it's not without its challenges. The sources note that despite its precision, CRISPR-Cas9 might not work effectively in all body locations or in all cell types. That seems like a significant hurdle for a systemic anti-aging treatment that needs to affect the whole organism.
It is a major hurdle. Plus, while the method itself might appear cheaper overall due to its efficiency compared to iPSCs, the programming and synthesis of the Cas9 protein and, crucially, the delivery mechanisms can still be very expensive.
Right.
So while it's an incredibly powerful tool, it's still in its earlier stages of development for widespread human application. And then there are the ethical considerations of altering the human germline, which also come into play, sparking important debates. Okay, now let's turn to some truly groundbreaking research that's fundamentally redefining our understanding of aging, particularly work coming out of David Sinclair's lab at Harvard Medical School. This work demonstrates something quite profound, that degradation in the way our DNA is organized and regulated, what we call the epigenome, can directly drive aging. And here's the crucial part. This happens independently of changes to the underlying genetic code itself, so it's not just about DNA mutations.
That is a massive shift in perspective. It suggests a much more malleable system, right? So if our DNA is the fundamental hardware, then the epigenome, using that familiar analogy, it's like the cell's operating system. It doesn't change the underlying code, but it dictates how that genetic material is used. Epigenetic factors are like the on-off switches, the dimmers, the volume controls for our genes.
Yeah.
They determine everything from what kind of cell it becomes, liver cell versus skin cell, to how that cell functions throughout its life. It's the software telling the hardware what to do.
That's a perfect analogy. Sinclair's team developed this ingenious system called ICE, which stands for Inducible Changes to the Epigenome. What they did was create temporary, fast-healing cuts in the DNA of mice. Here's the key. These cuts were strategically placed outside the coding regions of the genes.
So they weren't damaging the actual genes.
Correct. They didn't cause direct mutations to the genes themselves. Instead, these cuts mimicked the kind of low-grade DNA breaks our cells experience every single day from normal life. Things like metabolic byproducts, environmental toxins, even just breathing oxygen. And here's where it gets really interesting. The profound aha moment. What they observed was that initially, crucial epigenetic factors, these proteins and molecules responsible for organizing the DNA and regulating gene expression, would pause their normal gene-regulating work to go repair these DNA cuts.
Okay, they prioritize the repair.
Right, they do their repair job, and then they were supposed to return to their original locations to continue orchestrating the epigenome, but over time, they became distracted. They failed to consistently return to their original precise locations after repairs. This led to a progressive disorganization of the epigenome. Chromatin, that complex of DNA and proteins, became condensed and unspooled in the wrong patterns. Genes got turned on or off inappropriately.
So the software got corrupted.
Essentially, yes. This disorganization, this fundamental loss of the cell's original youthful epigenetic information, directly led to classic signs of aging in the mice. They literally looked and acted older, graying fur, reduced activity, and their measured biological age increased significantly compared to their chronological age.
But then came the truly exciting part, the reversal.
Yes. The researchers gave these ICE mice a gene therapy using that cocktail of genes we mentioned, OCT4, SOX2, and KLF4, or OSK. Those same genes active in embryonic stem cells that can rewind mature cells.
Okay.
Sinclair himself describes this beautifully, almost poetically, as like rebooting a malfunctioning computer. The therapy didn't just slow aging, it appeared to set in motion an epigenetic program that led the cells to restore the epigenetic information they had when they were young. It resulted in what they call a permanent reset.
A permanent reset. Wow.
The mice's organs and tissues literally resumed a youthful state with restored epigenetic information.
The implications of that are just staggering. It strongly supports the hypothesis that our cells might actually contain a kind of backup copy of youthful epigenetic software.
That's the idea. It's as if the original operating system for youth is still stored within our cells, just scrambled and disorganized by the constant wear and tear of life. The OSK therapy essentially knows how to access and reinstall that youthful software, resetting the cell's identity and function.
Like finding out your computer's aging isn't hardware damage, but just a corrupted OS you can reinstall.
Exactly. This paradigm shift means we might not need to painstakingly repair individual cellular damage, but rather reset the entire system. It fundamentally changes how we might approach age-related diseases. Looking to the future, this discovery is incredibly promising because fundamentally it's far easier to manipulate epigenomes than it is to reverse potentially millions of individual DNA mutations across trillions of cells. This opens up revolutionary new avenues for preventing and treating a vast array of age-related damage and diseases. The ultimate goal here isn't just extending life, it's extending health span, making entire bodies or specific organs young again so that age-related diseases, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, neurodegeneration, maybe even many cancers, simply don't arise as inevitable outcomes of aging.
Imagine treating those by just resetting the biological clock of the affected tissues.
That's the dream. This is truly where the science of longevity gets really interesting and holds immense potential. Let's move to another fundamental, yet often overlooked process within our bodies that directly impacts aging: cell death. Now, not all cell death is bad. In fact, a process called apoptosis is a good and absolutely essential form of cell death.
Programmed cell death, right?
Exactly. It's genetically programmed, tightly regulated. It serves as a critical quality control mechanism, removes damaged or unnecessary cells, prevents disease, prevents cancers from developing. It's crucial. But then there's the bad form of cell death, known as necrosis.
Okay, so what makes necrosis bad?
Necrosis is the chaotic, unregulated, and highly destructive form of cell death. Instead of a tidy, programmed demise like apoptosis, the affected cell swells until its outer membrane ruptures. It literally explodes, releasing its entire contents, all its internal enzymes and molecules, into the surrounding cellular environment.
Oh, wow, that sounds messy.
It creates widespread chaos. It triggers a cascade of detrimental effects: chronic inflammation, genetic instability in neighboring cells. It can even promote the formation of fast-growing tumors. Crucially, necrosis isn't just a symptom, it's often a driver of many debilitating age-related diseases. It plays a significant role in conditions like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, various cancers, kidney disease. It's a vicious cycle that accelerates aging and tissue damage.
You described it as chaotic and destructive. So what exactly is going wrong at the cellular level that causes this catastrophic process?
Yeah, the sources highlight that the crux of necrosis is the uncontrolled loss of calcium ion gradients within the cell.
Calcium ions.
Yes, calcium ions are incredibly important signaling molecules. They control numerous cellular processes, from muscle contraction to neurotransmission. When the cell's ability to regulate these calcium levels is compromised under stress, maybe due to injury or disease, it initiates multiple destructive pathways within the cell that leads to that irreversible swelling and rupture you described.
Okay, so controlling that calcium seems key.
It is, and this is precisely where a revolutionary new class of drugs comes in: anti-necrotics. These compounds could potentially be among the first drugs ever approved that directly treat aging itself by effectively halting this self-destructive cellular process.
Really? Drugs that treat aging?
That's the potential. Significant and promising work in this area is being spearheaded by Dr. Karina Kern, the CEO of Longevity, and in collaboration with Dr. Keith Sue, a highly respected renal specialist at University College London. Kern's innovative blueprint theory of aging, which actually takes inspiration from financial factor modeling.
Interesting approach.
It identifies necrosis as a critical node, a singular, high-impact area for therapeutic intervention in the aging process, like finding the key domino in a cascade. And the breakthrough achieved by Kern's team is quite remarkable. While previous attempts to block necrosis have largely failed due to its inherent complexity, the numerous pathways involved, Kern's team achieved an impressive suppression of up to 90% in vitro in lab dishes by taking a multi-targeted approach. They blocked more than one molecular pathway simultaneously.
So hitting multiple targets at once was the key.
Exactly. This synergistic strategy appears to be the key to overcoming the inherent redundancy and complexity of the necrotic process. They're not just hitting one switch, they're hitting several critical switches at once to truly stop the cascade.
And the practical application of this research is rapidly approaching: clinical trials.
Yes, clinical trials for anti-necrotics are ambitiously planned for late 2025. The initial focus is strategically placed on kidney disease, specifically acute tubular necrosis.
Why start with kidneys?
Well, it's a smart approach for several reasons. Kidney disease, particularly in older adults, often displays accelerated aging. This means researchers can potentially see the drug's effectiveness and therapeutic impact much faster than in a general anti-aging trial. Plus, the kidney is a well-characterized organ vital for transplantation, making it an ideal, accessible starting point for these novel treatments.
Makes sense. Get results faster in a relevant system.
Exactly. And what's truly fascinating here, almost a bit futuristic, is how this research might extend far beyond terrestrial applications. Dr. Su's collaborative work with NASA suggests that anti-necrotics could play a crucial role in protecting astronauts' tissues and organs from the damaging effects of cosmic radiation during deep space missions. Think long journeys to Mars.
Wow.
Oh.
So, pausing cell death for space travel.
Imagine a scenario where these drugs could effectively pause cell death in astronauts' bodies, preserving their cellular health and organ function until their safe return to Earth. It's a truly otherworld application of this groundbreaking science, transforming not just how we age, but potentially how we explore the universe.
Of course, as with any truly extraordinary claim in science, a healthy dose of skepticism is...
Well, it's necessary, right? Absolutely. Dr. Su himself emphasizes this important scientific principle, stating, "Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence." These initial clinical trials are expected to last 2 to 3 years, and the entire scientific community, along with those of us keenly following longevity research, will be eagerly awaiting the rock-solid data to confirm whether anti-necrotics can indeed make the deleterious effects of aging a treatable rather than inevitable condition.
It's a bold promise that demands rigorous proof. We'll be watching that one closely.
Okay, let's shift our focus now to another incredibly powerful frontier in anti-aging and regenerative medicine: stem cell therapy. We're particularly interested in mesenchymal stem cells, or MSCs. These are truly remarkable cells. They're characterized by their immature, undifferentiated nature and their incredible capacity for infinite self-renewal. They can make endless copies of themselves. Even more impressively, they possess multipotent capabilities, meaning they can differentiate into various cell lineages, becoming different types of specialized cells like bone cells, cartilage cells, fat cells, even some connective tissue cells.
So if I'm understanding correctly, MSCs essentially act as a sophisticated reservoir within our bodies. They're constantly available as a source for tissue production, maintenance, and critically, for repair and regeneration whenever our body needs it, like the body's internal repair crew.
Precisely. That's a great way to put it. And the magic of MSCs doesn't just lie in their ability to become other cells, but also in what they secrete. Their secretome, which is this complex array of bioactive molecules they release, including growth factors, cytokines, and tiny vesicles called exosomes, contributes to anti-aging through a multitude of sophisticated mechanisms.
Okay, like what kind of mechanisms?
Well, for example, they exhibit powerful anti-fibrotic effects, meaning they can actively reduce the accumulation of fibrotic tissue, basically scar tissue that builds up in organs as we age, leading to impaired function. This is critical for maintaining healthy organ function as we get older. Furthermore, these MSCs and their exosomes provide robust cellular protection through the production of antioxidant enzymes. They shield cells from the constant onslaught of oxidative stress, which is a major contributor to cellular damage and accelerated aging.
So they protect cells from damage too?
Yes. They also significantly enhance mitochondrial function, improving the efficiency of energy production within cells. This is directly associated with increased cellular resilience and overall longevity. Think of them as boosting the power plants of our cells. What's particularly fascinating is their role in modulating cellular senescence. They can influence and even potentially reverse cellular senescence, helping cells maintain their youthful functions and continue dividing properly, rather than becoming those problematic, pro-inflammatory, zombie senescent cells we discussed earlier.
Okay, so they can tackle senescence too.
They contribute to extracellular matrix remodeling, which is crucial for maintaining the structural integrity, elasticity, and functionality of our tissues. Essential for everything from healthy skin to the robust function of our internal organs and joints. MSCs also play a vital role in maintaining the integrity of stem cell niches. These are the microenvironments that support and regulate stem cells throughout the body, ensuring a continuous supply of functional cells for repair and regeneration.
So they help maintain the source of repair itself.
Exactly. Their secretome is also known to powerfully enhance wound healing and promote angiogenesis, the formation of new blood vessels, both crucial processes for tissue health and repair, especially as we age and our body's healing capabilities naturally decline. And finally, they promote autophagy, that crucial cellular self-cleaning process that effectively removes damaged or dysfunctional cellular components, contributing significantly to overall cellular rejuvenation and health.
It's clear that while mesenchymal stem cells hold immense, multifaceted promise in regenerative medicine and in potentially delaying the onset of aging, the research is definitely ongoing, right? There's still a lot more to uncover.
Oh, absolutely. Clinical applications are still being thoroughly explored. But the sheer number of ways they interact with our body's aging processes, from cellular repair to organ maintenance, makes them an incredibly exciting and highly active area of study in the quest for extended health span.
Okay, beyond the cellular and genetic interventions, we absolutely have to discuss the profound impact of dietary strategies, particularly calorie restriction, or CR. It remains to this day the most effective non-pharmacological intervention proven to significantly enhance longevity and health span in a wide array of non-human species. We're talking yeast, worms, fruit flies, rodents, even non-human primates. The evidence is quite strong across the board in animal models. And what's truly compelling is that there's growing evidence of significant benefits for humans too, isn't there? Although maybe harder to study long term.
Right. While strict long-term calorie restriction is challenging for humans, it has been linked to improved risk factors for many chronic diseases that plague us as we age. Things like type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, certain cancers, even neurological disorders.
We've seen anecdotal examples in long-lived populations like the Okinawans, who traditionally practiced harahachi, but, eating until 80% full. Also, participants in the Biosphere 2 experiment who experienced unexpected health benefits from their enforced low-calorie diet, and members of the Calorie Restriction Society International who voluntarily maintained strict caloric intake.
Exactly. However, the primary undeniable challenge with traditional continuous calorie restriction, as many studies have consistently shown, is adherence.
It's just hard to stick to.
It's incredibly difficult for most people to maintain such a stringent dietary regimen long-term, especially given our modern environment with its constant availability of abundant, energy-dense foods. The benefits might be clear, but the practical implementation for the general population remains a huge hurdle.
That's precisely why these novel dietary strategies have emerged as practical and potentially more sustainable alternatives.
Yep.
They aim to stimulate those beneficial adaptive processes, the same pathways activated by severe calorie restriction, even without requiring significant overall energy restriction or weight loss all the time. A major one is intermittent fasting, or IF, which is really a broad category involving periodic bouts of voluntary fasting, generally 12 hours or longer.
Right. Intermittent fasting works through several key cellular and metabolic mechanisms that mimic the anti-aging effects of continuous calorie restriction. For instance, during fasting periods, the body shifts its metabolism. It starts burning endogenous substrates like ketones and fatty acids, which can have beneficial signaling effects beyond just fuel. Fasting also consistently lowers systemic inflammation and oxidative stress. Critically, it inhibits mTOR, that master regulatory complex of cell growth, proliferation, and protein synthesis. And mTOR inhibition is strongly linked to longevity.
Okay, so turning down the growth signal.
Exactly. It also significantly upregulates autophagy, that vital cellular self-cleaning and recycling process we mentioned earlier. It removes damaged components, promotes cellular rejuvenation. Furthermore, ALF engages beneficial transcription factors like the FOXO family, triggering the expression of genes linked to stress resistance, blood glucose regulation, mitochondrial biogenesis, and enhanced cell survival. It's truly a multi-pronged attack on aging pathways.
And there are a few specific types of intermittent fasting that have been rigorously studied, each with its own approach and potential benefits. There's alternate day fasting, ADF, where you basically alternate days of normal eating with days of virtually no calories or maybe a strict 20-hour fast. Studies show it can lead to improvements in insulin sensitivity and overall metabolic health. Then there's alternate day modified fasting, ADMF, which is similar but designed to be more tolerable. It permits a small number of calories, say up to 25% of your usual needs on the fasting day.
Makes it a bit easier to stick with.
Right. And this approach has been found to reduce plasma insulin, decrease body fat, lower inflammatory markers, and improve cardiovascular markers, all while being more sustainable for participants. Another popular one, often highlighted in the media, is 5.2 intermittent fasting. You eat normally for 5 days a week, and then implement severe energy restriction, maybe 500, 600 calories on the other 2 non-consecutive days.
Right.
Some studies suggest this leads to greater improvements in fasting insulin and insulin resistance compared to continuous calorie restriction, indicating a strong metabolic benefit. And finally, time-restricted feeding, TRF. This is arguably the most common and accessible form. It involves restricting all food intake to a specific window, typically less than 12 hours per day, like eating only between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m., for example.
Yeah, the 168 method is very popular.
Exactly. This strategy has been shown to reduce body weight and fat mass, suppress 24-hour glucose concentrations, and even increase the expression of sirtuin-1 an important epigenetic modifier linked to longevity in LC3A, a protein crucial for autophagy.
So lots of different ways to implement fasting. Beyond just calorie restriction and IF, protein restriction has also garnered significant scientific attention as a potential longevity intervention.
Restricting protein. That sounds counterintuitive to some people.
It can seem that way, especially with the emphasis on protein in fitness circles. But the central hypothesis here is that decreased protein consumption, particularly of certain amino acids, inhibits the growth hormone, IGF-1 axis. This pathway is a key regulator of growth and metabolism, but its overactivity is strongly linked to accelerated aging and increased risk of age-related diseases.
So dialing down that growth pathway is good for longevity.
That's the idea. By dialing down this axis, protein restriction is thought to lead to increased FOXO activation, those stress resistance genes again, downregulation of mTOR, increased autophagy, and an inhibition of protein synthesis, all pathways consistently associated with extended longevity in model organisms.
And the benefits are actually quite compelling.
Yes. Studies have shown that a relatively low protein intake, specifically around 0.76 grams per kilogram of body weight per day, can effectively suppress IGF-1 concentrations. This suppression is linked to improved metabolic health, a reduction in fat mass, and decreased insulin resistance. Especially when the protein intake is shifted away from high animal protein sources and specific amino acids like leucine. What's more, it also increases levels of FGF-1, a hormone that has been shown to improve insulin resistance, hyperlipidemia, high cholesterol, and help manage body weight. It's a complex interplay, but the general direction suggests that a nuanced approach to protein can have profound metabolic and anti-aging effects.
So to summarize this whole section on diet, while these various methods, CR, IF, protein restriction, certainly show significant promise in promoting health and potentially delaying aging, especially by engaging these ancient cellular pathways.
Right. It's crucial to remember that the research is still relatively early stage for widespread human application, especially regarding maximum lifespan. More comprehensive, long-term studies are definitely needed to fully understand their impact on primary aging markers, not just cardiometabolic outcomes, and also long-term adherence in diverse populations.
But the message is clear. What we put into our bodies, and when we put it in, is a powerful lever in the quest for extended health and longevity.
Absolutely.
Okay, we've taken a really deep dive into the cutting-edge science, exploring everything from genetic tweaks with CRISPR to dietary interventions like fasting. But as fascinating as the science is, the human quest for immortality isn't new at all, is it? It's this age-old fascination, deeply woven into our history, our myths, our philosophy. Before we consider its modern implications, how have different philosophical schools throughout history grappled with this radical idea of living forever?
Oh, absolutely. Humanity's fascination with immortality predates modern science by millennia. It reflects this deeply ingrained human desire to transcend finitude, to overcome death. Let's begin with Plato, one of the giants of Western philosophy. He proposed a profound dualistic framework. For him, the physical body is mortal, destined to decay, but the soul, that's distinct, immortal, divine, existing independently of the body.
The body and soul are separate.
Completely separate. In dialogues like Phaedo and Republic, he passionately argues for the soul's eternal nature. His famous recollection theory suggests that true learning is really just our immortal souls remembering truths they knew before birth. And his allegory of the cave, where the rational part of the soul seeks truth beyond mere appearances, reinforces the idea that this rational, discerning part of us is immortal and aspires to a higher eternal realm. For Plato, living a virtuous life means aligning with this eternal, knowledgeable soul, essentially preparing it for its journey beyond the physical. Moving forward, Aristotle, Plato's brilliant student, offered a contrasting view with his concept of hylomorphism.
Hylomorph.
Yeah, he fundamentally saw the soul and body not as separate entities, but as interwoven. For Aristotle, the soul is the form that gives life and organization to the material body. It's the active principle of life. Now, he didn't believe in individual personal immortality in the same way Plato did. He thought the soul perishes with the body. But he did introduce the intriguing concept of an active intellect, nous poeticos. This was a part of the soul capable of abstract universal thought, which he suggested might be separable from the body and therefore last forever.
So a part of the mind could be immortal.
Potentially. but it suggests a more universal, impersonal immortality, where our minds contribute to an ongoing, shared life of the mind, rather than retaining our individual identity or memories after physical death. It encourages us to consider how our ideas might live on.
Interesting distinction.
Then we encounter two philosophical schools that offer very different takes: Epicureanism and Stoicism. Epicurus, based on his atomist view of the universe, believed the soul itself is made of tiny particles that simply disperse upon death.
So no afterlife, basically.
Exactly. For him, this unequivocally meant no personal immortality. His famous conclusion, "Death is nothing to us," asserts that since there's no sensation, no consciousness, and therefore no suffering after death, there's nothing to fear. It's a philosophy aimed at liberating us from the fear of death, prioritizing happiness and tranquility in this life. Stoicism, on the other hand, advocated for living in agreement with nature and the rational order of the cosmos. Stoics believed the entire cosmos, including individual souls, undergoes cycles of destruction and rebirth, repeating eternally as part of a divine rational order.
Like cosmic recycling.
Sort of. While not personal immortality in the traditional sense, it encouraged acceptance of life and death cycles, seeing them as integral parts of a larger, ongoing cosmic plan. The focus was on living virtuously now, mastering emotions, accepting what you can't control. A truly significant turning point came with René Descartes and his Cartesian dualism.
I think, therefore I am.
That's the one. He famously proposed a radical separation between the immaterial mind, or soul, the res cogitans, the thinking substance, and the physical body, the res extensa, the extended substance. His foundational statement implies the mind's inherent capacity for eternal existence, distinct from the perishable physical form. He argued that since the mind, capable of rational thought, isn't limited by physical form, it could potentially live forever. Of course, this dualism faced considerable criticisms. Gilbert Ryle famously called it the ghost in the machine, and modern neuroscience increasingly links mental processes directly to brain activity.
Right, the mind-body connection seems much tighter now.
It does. Yet Descartes' ideas profoundly shaped how we think about consciousness, self-awareness, and the possibility of a non-physical existence. Finally, Immanuel Kant provided a powerful and intriguing moral argument for immortality. He posited that immortality isn't something we can prove through experience or reason, but rather a moral necessity to achieve the highest good, which, for Kant, was a perfect blend of virtue and happiness.
A moral necessity. How so?
He argued that for humans to genuinely strive for endless progress toward moral perfection, a goal that cannot possibly be achieved within a finite lifespan, our souls must exist forever. Without an eternal soul, the very idea of striving for complete moral development over a finite life makes no rational sense. It would be meaningless command. Thus, for Kant, believing in an eternal soul, even if unproven, is crucial for ethical living and for making sense of our moral obligations. It becomes a postulate of practical reason.
It's truly fascinating, isn't it? How humanity's understanding of life, death, and this deep-seated fascination with immortality have constantly evolved across millennia. From these abstract philosophical concepts of soul and cosmos to today's scientific pursuit of biological and even digital forms of extending existence, these ancient questions remain incredibly relevant. They provide a rich backdrop as we push the very boundaries of what's possible, forcing us to ask, what does it truly mean to transcend our mortality, and are we ready for the consequences? #B, the transhumanist vision and digital immortality. Okay, bringing our discussion squarely into the modern era, let's explore one of the most provocative and futuristic visions of immortality, the transhumanist movement and the concept of digital immortality. And perhaps no one embodies this vision more publicly, or maybe more controversially, than the American tech entrepreneur and biohacker Brian Johnson.
Yes, Brian Johnson. He's become quite famous, or perhaps infamous, for his Project Blueprint, which is this highly public, meticulously orchestrated, and incredibly expensive pursuit of radical longevity, really bordering on biological immortality. His daily regimen is just mind-bogglingly strict. Precise caloric intake, intense exercise, meticulous sleep hygiene, intense biometric monitoring. He literally tracks every conceivable bodily function.
Yeah, I've seen the reports. It's extreme.
It is. He even engages in controversial experimental treatments, like those plasma transfusions from his son, which the US FDA has actually warned against as unproven and potentially unsafe for anti-aging purposes. His entire life is basically an N-of-1 experiment in extreme optimization. Johnson's core belief centers on what he sees as the inevitable fusion of biology and computation. He envisions a future where human minds can be digitized, effectively creating a form of digital immortality. He often speaks of his own Brian AI, a digital twin that has, quote, digested everything I've ever said and thought, allowing his consciousness, or at least a highly detailed representation of it, to exist beyond physical bodily death.
So uploading consciousness, essentially.
That's the idea. He famously states we're not stuck in biological software, implying our biological form is merely a temporary container for our consciousness, which can eventually be uploaded or replicated in a computational form. For him, this digital twin isn't just a backup, it's a stepping stone to indefinite continuity of self.
And he's not just talking about it, he's investing heavily in the tech, right?
Yeah.
His company, Kernel.
Exactly. Kernel develops these high-tech helmets designed to record and analyze brain activity with unprecedented precision. The ultimate ambitious aim is to not just measure, but to interface with, analyze, and eventually liberate minds from their biological cages, transforming them into computational selves. It's a radical, almost cyberpunk-esque vision.
It really is.
However, it's crucial to acknowledge the considerable skepticism surrounding Johnson's specific approach from a significant portion of the scientific community. Longevity scientists like Andrew Steele argue that while lifestyle interventions are undoubtedly beneficial for health span, genetics primarily dictate maximum life expectancy. Even the most extreme interventions might only have marginal effects on that absolute limit.
So lifestyle helps. But genetics sets the ceiling, basically.
That's one viewpoint. Others, like McGill University's Moshe Slife, a renowned expert in epigenetics, assert more pointedly that Johnson's specific goals and methodologies, particularly the idea of easily uploading consciousness or achieving indefinite biological life through current means, are simply not grounded in current science. The gap between optimizing health and achieving true biological immortality, let alone digital immortality, remains vast.
Despite the scientific skepticism surrounding his immediate goals, Johnson's overarching philosophy is undeniably bold and provocative. He predicts a future where existence will be the most prized asset. In a world when the boundary between biology and computation blurs, he believes traditional human aspirations like accumulating vast wealth, achieving fame, even leaving a legacy, will become devalued compared to the simple, profound act of continuing to exist.
It's a radical reimagining of human purpose, suggesting that perhaps the ultimate goal of humanity is simply to persist endlessly across any medium possible. #See societal and ethical implications of longevity. Which brings us squarely to the profound societal and ethical questions that the prospect of biological immortality or even just radical health span extension inevitably raises. If we effectively eliminate death due to aging, what happens to our long-held belief that death gives meaning to life? This fundamentally challenges our very existential framework. It prompts us to ask how human lives would be fundamentally reshaped if we began thinking not in terms of decades, but in terms of centuries and millennia. Would life lose its urgency, its preciousness?
That's a deep question. And one of the most immediate practical concerns, if such therapies become a reality, is access and inequality. Many worry that ultra-longevity therapies wouldn't be freely available to everyone. It could quickly become expensive to grow old, creating a new kind of social stratification. A dystopian society where only the wealthy and powerful could afford to control access to indefinite life, leading to what some sources term eternal injustice. Imagine that world, divided into the short-lived and the practically immortal.
It's a stark vision. However, it's important to consider alternative viewpoints and historical trends. Some counterarguments suggest that longevity medicine, like many other transformative technologies throughout history, think penicillin, personal computers will eventually become cheap and widely accessible due to rapid technological advancements and mass production.
Like the cost of genome sequencing dropping dramatically.
Exactly. They argue that it will actually make economic and societal sense for governments and healthcare systems to ensure everyone has access. Extending health span for all would dramatically reduce the burden of age-related diseases on healthcare systems and boost productivity. History does show technology costs tend to drop dramatically over time.
Okay, that's a more optimistic take. But then there are the concerns that immediately spring to mind about resource scarcity and overpopulation. People naturally envision this logistical nightmare of infinite appetite in a world filled with immortals, straining our finite planetary resources beyond their breaking point. It's easy to picture a suffocating, overcrowded Earth.
Understandable fear. Yet counter-arguments exist here too, offering a more optimistic perspective. Some demographers and futurists predict the global population is actually expected to stabilize, perhaps around 15-20 billion within maybe 200 years, largely due to economic incentives and societal shifts against high birth rates in developed societies. People just tend to have fewer kids as societies get wealthier. Furthermore, humanity's long-term future may not be confined to Earth. Visionaries envision expansion onto other planets, vast space habitats, even asteroid mining, which would open up effectively limitless new resources, completely alleviating earthbound resource issues by expanding our living and resource base into the cosmos.
Okay, so maybe overpopulation isn't the inevitable doom scenario. What about our entire justice system? If prison sentences, currently defined by finite years, lose their sting in a world where individuals might live indefinitely, how do we reevaluate penalties for crimes? And conversely, the death sentence, already the most severe punishment, would become an even more absolute, irreversible, perhaps psychologically brutal consequence. It forces a complete rethinking of deterrence and rehabilitation.
Absolutely. And this leads to even broader questions about human endeavors and progress itself. There's a tangible risk of stagnation. Would people become stuck in their ways, clinging to outdated social values, leading to a kind of mass paralysis where new ideas and innovations struggle to emerge? If you have eternity to write your legacy, as one source put it, would ambition wane? Would the drive for innovation, often fueled by the finite nature of life, just dissipate? The urgency might be lost.
But on the flip side, I found the counterargument truly compelling. Imagine the potential for unprecedented innovation. The sheer cumulative collaboration and accumulated wisdom of minds like Nikola Tesla, Albert Einstein, Stephen Hawking. If they were still alive and collaborating for centuries, it could lead to groundbreaking advancements in science, technology, philosophy on a scale we can barely comprehend.
It's an amazing thought.
Longevity could lead to global stabilization, allowing for long-term planning that spans generations. It could empower individuals to pursue mastery, exploration, creative endeavors on a scale previously unimaginable, unlocking entirely new kinds of human experiences. What if a lifetime simply becomes the first chapter of many?
It's a powerful potential upside. We also have to consider how fundamental social structures like reproduction and family might change. If people can continue to have children at much older ages, even centuries old, how would that alter the dynamics of families and generational relationships? Would there be an endless accumulation of descendants? It could also lead to gravitation towards new social arrangements, perhaps highly specialized retirement communities for the very, very long-lived, or new forms of communal living as people experience multiple life stages across extended lifespans.
And what about the very capacity of the human mind? Could demanding centuries of memory storage, recall capacity, continuous learning lead to unforeseen cognitive and mental health issues? Would our brains simply hit a processing limit, or might we develop some form of existential ennui or memory overload?
That's a valid concern. But some sources suggest that biological immortality, if achieved with enhanced health span, might also inherently help minds stay open-minded and adaptive by fostering continuous neuroplasticity and learning. It could enable individuals to achieve the best of both worlds between hedonistic living, experiencing all life has to offer, and ascetic living, deep philosophical contemplation, emphasizing the importance of balancing social activities, continuous learning, and personal development over an immensely extended lifespan. The brain itself might evolve or be augmented to cope.
Maybe.
Looking far, far into the future, say 200 to 2,000 years from now, the implications stretch even further than just living longer on Earth. We might see dramatic shifts in communal living trends, incredible advancements in governance and technology, including maybe even the possibility of faster-than-light travel. The ultimate adaptation for humanity, in this view, could be to genetically and technologically adapt to live on currently uninhabitable planets, truly spreading beyond our solar system.
Becoming interplanetary.
Or interstellar. This could potentially lead to what some futurists term deliberate speciation, where we intentionally evolve into different species, perhaps resembling, the source mentioned Klingons or other specialized forms to thrive across the stars.
Wow, deliberate speciation. That's a truly wild thought.
It is. But one that our sources suggest is a logical long-term outcome if this drive for indefinite existence continues and expands beyond Earth. #tagoutro.
We've truly embarked on an extraordinary journey today, haven't we? From the microscopic mechanics of cellular aging and those astonishing natural immortals of our planet, through the cutting-edge scientific breakthroughs in telomeres, epigenetics, anti-necrotic, stem cell therapy, even diet, all the way to the grand philosophical debates and the mind-bending societal implications of biological immortality. It's a topic that touches on every aspect of what it means to be human, to live, and maybe to aspire beyond our current limits.
Indeed, it covers so much ground. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final provocative thought, something to really mull over. Given the rapid advancements we've explored today and the truly mind-bending possibilities that are beginning to emerge, what does the pursuit of biological immortality truly mean for you? What does it mean for your definition of a meaningful life? If you could live indefinitely, maybe for centuries, what would you choose to do with that eternity? What stands out to you as the most profound implication of this whole quest?